This is Scott Jennings, where he was talking about President Trump being someone who is looking for peace before war, as opposed to war before peace, which is the neocon thing, which has been really in effect for decades in the United States going into this. And he says that he believes there's a real change.
Something about the Republican doctrine that is fascinating to me. I've been in the party for 25 years, working in it. We've always been war and peace. I think Trump has changed it to peace and war. He talks about peace more than he talks about war. He's still hawkish enough to bomb people that need to be bombed, like the Houthi rebels. But I get the feeling he's responding to all these new inflows of constituents to the Republican Party. Maybe they were Democrats before, maybe they weren't even political before, but they would much rather hear an American president talk about peace. And the banner in the Middle East at his rally this week said, "Peace through strength," which is probably one of the most enduring slogans from the Reagan era. He doesn't agree with him on everything, but on that, I think he's right. But putting peace ahead of war, pretty popular with the American people. Well, I was on this.
Okay, I really like that last part, because that didn't appear to be a scripted or expected thing where the crowd starts cheering when he says, "I think it's popular among the American people."
Especially Bill Maher's crowd, right?
Yeah. So they seem to really think that. I think you really hit on a nerve there positively, that the Americans do want peace above war. And he's also right. Scott was also right when he's saying that Trump talks about this all the time. He says, even with Iran, I don't want to be bombing anybody. I'd much rather get this solved, through negotiations. And he certainly is trying in that. And I give him unequivocal props on that. But then you have to get to the situation in Gaza, because then now there's a different problem here. Now, I'm going to show you the headline of a Substack from John Mearsheimer that we've had on the show. I'll just tell you, it's kind of controversial, as he is a controversial figure here, and it's called Genocide Dawn. And Mearsheimer, this is just from yesterday, he says, it seems to me that we should now begin asking the distinguished guests whether they think Trump, like his predecessor, is complicit in genocide. Just as Biden was called Genocide Joe, does it make sense to call Trump Genocide Don? It seems obvious to me, watching Trump fully support Israel's ongoing genocide, that he deserves that label. That is a pretty harsh statement, and I know it's going to recoil a lot of the folks who really like Trump. And in fact, going back to the Brett Baer conversation from yesterday, that topic came up again.
I think Iran is right now the big problem. That's also a problem. Hamas is big, and we want to take care of the people. Look, people are starving. You see what's going on right now. People are starving. One of the things that one of the three great leaders that I saw 2 nights ago said to me, please help the people, the Palestinians. I said, other than the obvious, what do you mean by that? He said, they're starving. And he meant it with his heart. They're starving. So I've already started working on that. It's a deep problem, but we'll get it solved. And a very immediate and a very big problem is, I'm so proud of what we were able to do with India and with Pakistan. Well, it's a potential problem like that we have here. I'll get it solved, and one way or the other I'll get it solved. It's either going to be done nicely or it's going to be done violently. And I 99.9% want to do it nicely if we can.
Okay, on the last part there, obviously we're in complete agreement that we don't want any war. He's still leaving over the specter that we could actually use the ugly way or the mean way. I can't remember the phrase he just used. But then let's back up a little bit to talking about the Gaza. So yes, he's definitely right, because they've said it many times. The Gulf Arab leaders are just incensed over this situation in the Gaza Strip. They are being starved to death. It has been chronicled. It's been even in the Western media. They're talking about it. Israel has blocked off food aid from the Gaza Strip since early in March. And they're running out of every kind of food supply it is, and there's malnutrition because they're trying to spread what little they have left further and further. And Trump has been saying of late, I'm talking like just the last number of days, he's pointing out the starvation that's going on. Says we need to do something to fix it. Well, here's where maybe we'll disagree. I'll tell you what I think first, and then Gary's going to give his pitch. I think that Trump can't say that he's for the Palestinian people, because he has the leverage to compel compliance. He can pick up a phone and tell Netanyahu, open the damn gates, get the food in there right now. There are thousands of trucks parked in the region just waiting to go into the Gaza Strip, if only they'll give the word. But they're not giving the word, and the Israelis keep blocking it. And so if Trump wants to be a peacemaking president, if he wants to say that I'm for peace, then he has got to use his leverage against Israel, because Israel cannot continue this war. They cannot go into the Gaza Strip in a new offensive. They can't even continue this operation here unless they have the nonstop support from the United States and ammunition, intelligence support, weapons, and all kinds of other things. All of it would come to a grinding halt if our support came to a stop as well, and he's not using that leverage. So that is one of the things that gives me a problem. Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Danny, check your microphone. I think you reverted back to your other mic. So just check on that. I think that's what happened. And we'll take it from there. No, Danny, I don't disagree with you there. I think part of what's going on is it's almost like there's we're seeing a slow metamorphosis in his thinking, where you would have hoped, prayed, demanded that Trump arrived at this already, and he hasn't. And I think the way he's starting to talk about the devastation in Gaza, the way he talks about the devastation in Ukraine, you know, we've heard him for months, even before he was, took office, on how he's seen the devastation. He know how bad. If you ever to see the Ukraine battlefields, the soldiers, they cover the battlefields. Repeatedly he kept saying that. He's never talked about Gaza like that. But now, just recently, in the last week or so, he's starting to mention, oh yeah, and he just met the conversation he just talked about that he had, where it's starting to take hold of him. So I think that's part of it. For some reason, the people around him haven't articulated, I think, how bad the situation in Gaza is, the way they have told him about the Ukraine situation. Now that's starting to come to the surface. It should have happened already. I agree. Why is he so late to the game with the realization? I can't explain that. And I think the other thing that maybe Trump is subtly conflicted in is that we've heard the other plan that he has, turning the Gaza into the paradise that it should be, kind of thing. So that has been waiting. He actually thinks, that's something that he can move all these people out, move the Palestinians out, and create this Shangri-La. So I think, maybe his grip on that idea is starting to loosen also, that the possibility, the reality of trying to pull that off, it's not going to happen. So I think, we're seeing this metamorphosis happen. And again, like you said, he could just call, Netanyahu today and say, knock it off, open the gates, put the food in, stop it. And he should be doing that.
And let me just pop this up on the screen here. This is news out. Let's see, what's the date on this? Yesterday as well. This didn't get a lot of notoriety. I just saw it late last night, but this is complicating the situation. We just got to be honest here. There we go. Trump administration working on a plan to move 1 million Palestinians to Libya. Details are murky. No final agreement has been reached, but the plan is under serious consideration. That the administration has discussed it with Libyan leadership. Now,
Dan, put that back up. We can't see it yet. Just reload it for us.
Oh, okay. It's showing up on my screen.
Okay, then we got it. Okay, I don't see it. That's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if anybody else somebody in the chat here. Y'all tell us if y'all see that or not. But in any way, whether it's there or not, that's what's being reported right now. That we're actually considering moving half the population out of there to Libya. Now, I don't know whether that would happen. I don't know whether there's even any possibility of that. But the problem is that by even talking about that, you're basically saying we're ready to work with Israel to do what Israel wants, which is to get the Palestinians out. That's been their plan and their desire for decades, many decades before. And that's not getting food aid in. And if there's any conversation with that, then I think morally that Trump should use his leverage today, pick up the phone and say, open the gates. We'll talk about this other stuff separately, which I think is a huge mistake. But at least stop starving the people right now. Because
you can feed them and move them, can't you? Can't you do both?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can. Of course, now I would certainly argue that moving them is also the wrong answer because they don't want to be moved. I don't know how they would get that done or if they'd be willing to. And even then, logistically speaking, then what for the other million people in there? What about the people in the West Bank? You see, this is an incredibly complicated problem. And the issue that I have is that we have some leverage here, but that we're not using any of it. I have the same problem in the Russia situation. we have leverage over the Ukraine side in this case to say, look, come to an agreement here. We're not going to support anything if you guys keep going down this path. But instead, we keep the door open with actually a couple of little bits of, F-30, F-16 help here, 350 million, 50 million there, air defense here. We're just trickling it out, which doesn't make much difference, but it allows them to keep going instead of using his leverage. Because I got to ask, what do you think, Gary? When he said, when Rubio went out on behalf of the president on the 18th of April, so now almost a full month ago, and said, we're days away from walking if we can't get the sides together. But now it's over a month, and that talk's off the table now. What do you make of that?
Yeah, can only make of it, what's being put before us is that they've retracted, they've backed off of what the original. It's almost like a threat of sorts, that they're fed up. We recognize your threat. You're fed up. Okay. So then act upon it, and then they revisit it, rethink it, and maybe we were overthinking it. We shouldn't have been so brash to be willing to just walk away like that. Where that still seems to be the best option at this point in time, because staying in and mediating isn't working either.
Yeah, and I think, and by the way, I want to be clear, I'm not opposed to Trump. I'm not an anti-Trumper by any stretch. If anybody's watched our channel for any amount of time, you know that when he does something that's good and proper, I'm the first one to applaud him. I did a show just the other day on his comments that he made in the Middle East in there. But because we're unintimidated and uncompromised to tell you the truth, we have to tell you all the truth on whether it's Biden, Trump, or whoever may come next. But I fear, and this is in the last few minutes we have here, Gary, I kind of want your thoughts on this to the extent that I worry that the president's supporters may start to get a little bit antsy because they're saying, wait, you keep promising all this stuff and you're not making good on the big stuff. Terrific that you got these trillions of dollars of deals in the Middle East, nothing but accolades for that. But on these other big issues, they're not going away and they're not going in our direction. And I think that Trump is going to be in a really tough position coming up soon, that if he doesn't take some kind of demonstrative action, especially in the Russia-Ukraine war, but also in the Middle East situation there with Gaza, that he's going to be seen as powerless. And even his supporters may start to say, hey, wait a minute, you got to do something because otherwise they're just playing you one way or the other. How do you see that dynamic among his supporters?
I think the whole idea of him being, the master deal maker, obviously that's been quite tarnished already, and it's not going in the right direction. So I think he's already taken that hit. He's already had to, eat his humble pie. From what as you described, promising to get this deal done before he was in office, then within 100 days, and now here we are 4 months into it, and we're still, we're not any further down the road of agreement than we were before he got into office. So I think he's already taken that hit, Danny. As far as his followers go, I don't know. I think that his followers, and listen, they're a devoted bunch, right? And I say that affectionately, that they're not gonna turn their back on him quickly. Let's put it that way. I think there's plenty of people ready to to go on the attack for him being incompetent and trying to bloviate his way through this whole thing. And, your bloviation isn't working any longer, right? You can only make these promises so long until they get revealed for what they are, nonsense. So yeah, something's going to have to happen. And hopefully,
and I think that there's two events in both of these cases that is putting a timeline and a limitation on Trump's ability to just keep on going on without making decisive action. If large numbers of people in Gaza start literally dying of starvation, and now then there's bodies emaciated like from the Holocaust or something, and they're dying in large numbers, or in the Ukraine side, if Russia finally does something like a big arrow somewhere, or there's simply a collapse in the war somewhere, and all of a sudden Russian troops start flooding in and nothing's going to stop it, then he's going to be compelled. You have to do something, or then it's even his supporters are going to start saying, wait, this criticism is right. So I think the time is limited where he's going to have to make a decision hard one way or the other in both cases.
Danny, I think it's been part of the problem. It's been such a slow burn in a sense, the way things are, it's been incremental. And then because it's been happening, so slowly in a sense, at least in the terms of our world as to how we see things, if you're there, it's not happening slowly, but for the way it's unfolding, I think that's been part of the problem. And you're right, where maybe we need to see something catastrophic have to happen for there to be any real movement in the directions that we'd like to see it go in.
And, ironically, if Trump wanted to buy himself political time, his best move is to open the gates and get the food in there right now, because then you can move that issue of potentially starvation deaths in large numbers. You can push that off by letting them live again. And then you can, if you're only thinking crass, you can improve yourself by doing that. And I hope that somebody on his staff is telling him that, because I want the thing to be solved, but I want those people to stop dying.
Danny, that's what I was saying a little while ago. Can't you feed them and move them? I just meant that in a crass way. In the second, you can still feed them even if you want to move them. So, feed them. At least start with that. Yeah,
no matter what, let's start with that, because just on a human level, just a sheer humanitarian level, forget about anybody's ethnicity or religion or anything else. That should be the imperative. And certainly a lot in the world are, and I hope that the president takes that soon. As you said, he's been talking about that more and more in the last few days. Let's hope that thought compels him to movement very soon.